Welcome to VegasPy. My name is Howard. I'm one of the co-organizers of this group, and today I'll be doing a presentation on GUIs in Python. What you saw there was a presentation. It's sometimes called the mother of all demos, and Douglas Engelbart was presenting that back in 1968, and he was putting forth a lot of the concepts that we deal today with and improve upon. Many people don't know this, but Douglas is actually the inventor of the mouse. So without him, it's a very iterative process of developing things. But I wanted to show you that, there really isn't a whole lot of new stuff under the sun. And he was pretty much a very big innovator for his time. I think he passed away a couple of years ago. Okay, so we're going to be focusing today on building some GUIs in Python. I don't know how far we're going to get, because it's a very, very large topic, and I don't know everything that there is to know about it. Relatively, I know little about it. But there's a difference between what we traditionally do when we script a Python script and when we create a GUI. And I want to think about this, that in a lot of cases where you're dealing with a command line, it's a very sequential thing. Maybe you start up the program and it asks for some input. It may ask for your name. It may ask for your address. All that time, it's do one thing after another. I call that the Charles Emerson Winchester III model. Anybody here ever see the TV show MASH?
Oh, I just talked about it yesterday.
Okay, well, there was a surgeon on there, Charles Emerson Winchester III, and he was a new surgeon in the MASH unit, and they got a lot of injured in, and it was his first time in the operating room, and he's busy doing one person, and everybody else is kind of doing a lot of other things at the same time. And they said, come on, Charles, you have to pick up the pace. And he said, I do one thing, I do it well, and I move on to the next. That's what we typically do with a command line program. Conversely, a GUI is more of an event loop. You wait for things to happen and then you react. Think of this like this. You got up this morning, you woke up, and you said to yourself, I got to do certain things. I have to brush my teeth, I have to comb my hair. But in addition to the things that you knew you had to do, also, your body was reacting to a lot of things. And I don't know how the brain works, but I assume there's a lot of event loops. And it's constantly, your body and your brain is constantly going out, seeking out new inputs into your body and reacting to them. And in a way, what we do with the GUI is we do that. So we give the illusion that there's multiple things going on in the GUI. And so that you can see that kind of a difference in programming. When I got started with that, I had to write some C code. I was enamored with Windows 1. And I never got a chance to do any programming for Windows 1. But I did come along in Windows 3. And what you would have to do is write something like this. This is C code, and I don't expect anybody here. Does anybody here? How many people know C? Good. You know C? Okay. Nobody knows. Okay. But it doesn't really matter here, because you can see that you have to write a lot of code to get something on the screen. And I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but there is one spot where it says if parenthesis not H previous instance, or just below that, we would see something called WN-proc. That's a callback function. And you had to tell Windows where you wanted to start, where you wanted your program to start. And if you look on the right, you'll see that that program is there. If you go further down on the left-hand side, you'll see something called while get message. That starts what's called an event loop. And all that thing does is it keeps going around and around, and it keeps getting messages from Windows. What are those messages that it gets? One of those might be WM_paint. All of the Windows messages were always started with WM, meaning Windows message. And then what is it that you wanted to do? So you get, in your window, you get all kinds of messages, and you either have a choice to intercept those messages or ignore them and let Windows handle what the default is. And one example of that would be if you moved your cursor, your mouse cursor, over your window, that window is getting bombarded with all kinds of messages from the mouse telling you what position it's in. And if you choose to, you can intercept that and do something with it. But this will allow you to get down to a very granular level. And if you go through this exercise, what you begin to realize is Windows is really nothing more than a set of routines that will handle graphics for you. And it's also a message passing system. And all you're doing is responding to messages, just like your body is responding to messages right now. When it gets too cold, your body does whatever it has to do to get you warm again. If you're too hot, it'll trigger the perspiration response. And so if you just think about it like that, we're not that much different than this program, except we're doing it on a scale that this can't even imagine. Okay, this is one of the most important parts of a GUI. It's called the event loop. I told you about that in the C code. And almost every package implements some form of this. What happens is new events come in. It could be somebody presses a mouse button, it presses a keystroke, they move a window around, whatever it is, that gets put into that. And every application has its own event loop. So all you have to do is look at the first event that's in that event loop. It's a queue. We call the appropriate event handler. We may choose to accept it or not accept it. We can accept it. If we accept it, we're going to do something with it, and it's handled. If not, we're just going to let it go and let the system default to whatever it is it does. Okay, so we're Python people here. When I was approached to do this, because Adam couldn't be here today, he said, well, you did this before. Can you do it again? Can you just do a survey of packages? This is what I came up with as the number of packages that are available for Python. And I mean, you could see there's a lot of them there. There is one that I do know of. It's called, if you look down on the left-hand side, it says PySimple GUI. This one looks very promising. Unfortunately, if you go to their webpage, it'll say, we gave it our best shot. They're kind of an open source community, but they ran out of funding. What they do have are the old versions up on GitHub. So if you read up on it and you say, hey, this is the way I'd like to go, then that may be for you. Each one of these has strong points and weak points. Some have more weak points than strong points. Some are older and more established technologies, and some are newer. And the only thing I could do to help out in this situation was to give you a quick guidance as to what it is you might want to consider if you're brand new to this. So if you're a beginner, you may want to use tkinter. That's built into Python. You don't have to download anything. It's right there. TK, actually it started out as TCL, TCL. And that was made in 1988. And TCL stands for Tool Command Language. And it was an attempt to make a cross-platform tool command language where you could write scripts and execute them without knowing too much in the way of programming. But it allowed things to have extensions, and one of those extensions was called TK. And that was a binding. It was the C version of a graphical user interface that you could do cross-platform. See, in the beginning, what I showed you before in that coding list, the coding listing, was made for Windows. And you couldn't run that on a Mac. And you couldn't run it in Unix. You couldn't run it anyplace else but on Windows. And everybody was kind of in their own silo. So that when people said, hey, I'd like a version of what you're doing, but I'd like it, but I have a Mac, you were kind of out of luck. So a number of different schemes people came up with to be able to use the same code base. And one of those was TK. Okay, that's in C. So tkinter is actually, it's a bunch of wrappers that wrap around TK. Let's see, if you want more of a professional look and feel to things, you may want to try PyQt or PySide, and we'll get into that later. Hopefully we'll have time to do that. And you can look down here. If you haven't received a handout, there's some in front. Can I just have one of these? Just that one's fine. Yeah. No, I just need this. Okay, so my assignment was to do a presentation on a survey. I've done the survey. I guess the whole thing is over. Well, not really. We'll try to build something, and we're going to build a calculator. So this calculator isn't going to be like adding and subtracting. It's going to be something. I really enjoyed this problem. It's called the birthday paradox. Given a probability from 0 to 1, the user chooses that. What is the maximum number of people that you would have to encounter before you would meet two people who have the same birthday? So, anybody have any guesses here? If you've never done this before, does anybody have any guesses? If I said I want a 50-50 chance, how many people you would need to talk to before you came up with two people that had the same birthday? 144. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else? 255. You know, I know you know. I'm sorry? Anybody else have a guess? Okay. Well.
Can I change my guess?
I'm sorry?
Can I change my guess?
You can change your guess.
No, I'll stick.
Okay, 144. We'll remember 144. Now that's if you're on planet Earth. What if you're on one of the other planets that we have, and the dwarf planet? If we measure time by Earth days, then how many would you have to go to? That's the kind of calculator that we will be building. So this is what it's going to look like. And it looks like a typical GUI program. We have a menu. We actually don't need a menu for this, but I think the law says you have to have a menu, or I think in California you do. It's got a combo box where you can choose what planet you want to solve this problem for. We're going to allow for the fact that we don't know it, but maybe another planet is going to join our solar system. So we're going to have a customization field where we can choose the year length of that new planet. the target probability. We said 50%, but you could choose any amount you want. And then there'll be a calculate button. And when you press the calculate button, it'll tell you how many people you would need to talk to. By the way, don't let the idea that we're doing something that is of a statistical nature deter you on this project. We've got that all worked out. All you'll have to do is call a specific routine. Okay. Let's see if I can get back to this. Okay. Well, shoot. Okay, so we're going to start off with probably the easiest one to get started with, because you don't have to download anything. It's tkinter. And there are a number of drag and drop facilities that you can download. I tried last Saturday. I went from 10 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night trying to get something to work. And it could be my environment that I had a problem with. A promising project in this regard is something called tkinter Builder. You may have to go out. I think you have to go out and register with a website called figma.com. And you design everything in figma.com, and then this other program will come along and translate it into the GUI. But let's just start at the top of this handout that you have that shows you what we're going to try to build. And we'll try to do this in tkinter. Yes?
What's the website?
I'm sorry?
The website that you're speaking of?
Figma.com.
Thank you.
All right. So we have to import a few things. We have to, I have something called a probability calculation module. And in there we have to import calculate and planet years day. That's mostly it's a dictionary that maps the names of the planets with the number of days in their year. Let's see. Most importantly is something called tkinter. We're going to import that as tk. And we're also going to, from tkinter, we're going to be importing ttk and message box. ttk is for themed tk. So you can modify the way something might look in the form of like a style sheet of some kind. Okay. So, please, everybody, please excuse me. I did not anticipate having to do it in this way. It's kind of awkward for me. Okay. So the beginning of the program is here. So the first thing you need to do, and this goes for almost any package, is you need to instantiate an object for that particular package. And in this case, remember we imported some tkinter as tk. So what we need to do is to call the tk method, and that will start up your application. And we're going to assign what gets returned to that into root. The next thing we're going to do is we are going to start up the main loop. Remember, I told you that you have an event loop that you have to service. That routine is going to do all that for you. If you don't put that in there, you won't see anything coming up on your screen. Now, I'm going to take this step by step so that we don't get too lost along the way. And I'm going to execute this program right now. So just for instantiating that object, let's see what happens. Okay, we get a window. Not much. It's not very interesting. It has a title of TK. That's kind of the default. But what you don't see underneath the surface is that there's a lot being done right now for you. If I put my mouse in the window, it's sending messages like crazy to the event loop. I'm choosing to ignore those. I have built-in capabilities here. I can maximize this. I can minimize it. I can resize it. I can move it around. That's a lot of capability that you're getting for only a few lines of code. Okay, let's move on. Anybody have any questions about that? Okay, I'm going to take this out of here. Okay, so let's move on. So, next thing we want to do is let's dress up the window a little bit. We're going to give it a title. It's going to be called Planetary Birthday Paradox Calculator. And we're going to give it a geometry of 420 by 350. You wouldn't know it. I didn't know it until I actually played around with it to get it to the right size. One of the things I can do is I can limit the size, the size of the window if I want to. And that's what I'm doing with the next line. It says min size, and the minimum size is also going to be the initial size. And I'll demonstrate that in a second, what we do there. And then we're going to just configure this for the background as being white. So let's execute that, and I can demonstrate what we've done here. Here we have the title. We have a white background. It's just about the same. If I can resize this like this, but I can't go any lower than that. And that's what that min size does. It's not necessary to do it. It's just what I wanted to do. Okay. Notice that I finish up the code with root.main loop. And as I said, that's the event loop. A lot of people get hung up on the fact that they forget to put that in, and they don't get any output. So just remember to always put that in. Okay, so if you look down on the sheet that I've given you, at the top we have a menu. And this is a standard menu that we've all used before. It's called a cascading menu. You put topics on top, and then when you touch one of those topics, it drops down and you get more options available to you. And this is the way you do it in tkinter. You start off by saying that you're going to start off with a menu item. And, well, I'm sorry, you need to create a menu bar. Inside the menu bar is where you're going to put the items. So we have root.config. We're going to config that we're going to say that the menu is equal to the menu bar. So you've created this thing in memory, and now you're going to be putting it in the menu bar area. And then we're going to create a file menu. So we say tk.menu, menu bar, which is, we're going to put it into the menu bar, and it says tear off equals 0. So I don't know if you've ever seen this. I've never seen this personally, there is something called a tear-off menu. Has anybody ever seen that? You have? Okay. I've never seen it, but if you say tear-off is equal to 1, it'll be a tear-off menu. And what that will allow you to do is when you pull down the menu item, there will be a dotted line there. You grab the dotted line and you can actually just tear off the menu and put it someplace else.
Does that work here?
I'm sorry?
Does that actually work here?
Yeah.
Is this Windows or is this Linux?
This is Linux. But I have it set at 0 because
Oh, come on.
well, all right. We'll set it to 1. You don't believe it's going to work? I actually didn't try it, so okay. All right. And then what are the items that we want underneath there? We're going to put a label called new. That's typical for a menu file. And when you press the new button, it's going to ask you, what is the command you want to execute with that? The command we want to execute is actually a print command, but what I'm using is a lambda function, because you specify the name of the routine. And the reason I'm using a lambda function for this is because I need to call print with an argument. And all I'm going to do is print out new file. Then this next item down will be open. And same thing, it's going to print open file. So then you have you're going to add a separator on. So you've seen these things before where there's just a separator line that comes through. The next one will be calculate. And we're going to call calculate with a bunch of parameters, arguments that we're going to calculate our birthdays. We're going to add another separator, and then there's an exit. Now on all of these, except for calculate, you'll see that there's another argument called accelerator. We've all probably used those. You say Control N, and it activates the new the new menu item, or O opens a file, and it does something for you. So when you say accelerator, what it's going to show you is new, and then it's going to show you the Control N. Now, I think a lot of people get a little frustrated with this because this is actually only the display portion. It actually doesn't do it. You have to do some binding. Later on, we'll do that. All right, let's give this a shot and let's see what happens. And now you see we have a file menu. Let's see if that tear off works. There it is. So this is that tear off function I was telling you about. You should be able to, I don't have very good control over this. I'm sorry. I think there it goes. I think I've moved it. So that's the tear off function. Is that the functionality that you had seen, Richard? Okay. Okay, now if I press Control N, nothing happens. And that's because, remember I told you that Control N, when you specify the accelerator, all you're saying is to the user, this is what that will do. But we haven't bound that yet to anything. If I type new, if I press new, then you see that I get new file printed out. Same thing for open. Now when I had used exit, that exits. And so what you see there, if you look up, just below where the cursor is right now. I'll move that down. Oops. If you see where it says menu bar, where is that? Exit. Then it says that the command is root.quit. So that's built in to the tk-enter interface. All right, let's get rid of these and move on. And we'll just, I'm not going to belabor this, but we're going to add the edit menu and the help menu. So let's just show you that we can get the full complement of those.
I have a question.
I'm sorry?
I have a question.
Oh, you have a question? Yes.
So you know how in like JavaScript there's like Bootstrap and React and stuff like that for frameworks? Does Python have a front-end framework?
There is one that uses Bootstrap. When you say front end,
Like with React, like I could just probably like with like one line of code build a menu
right?
bar.
I think there is one. I can't.
This is.
Sorry, I don't know if there's like a faster way to do it with a Python GUI, I guess.
I would compare TK to React. So React works in a browser and TK works on your desktop.
Okay. But this and then you do the component of TK?
Okay, so we have different menu items here. And I have an about box here, and it'll just tell you that it's the help menu. So we have quite a bit of functionality, very little code. I'm spending, I think, more time with the words than actually what it takes to code this. All right, so let's move on from this. So now this is where we will bind those accelerators to the menu items. And all you have to say is root.bind. Root, remember, is our object. It's that window. And root.bind says, I want you to use Control-O, and I want you to call the function open file. Likewise, Control-N is new file. Control-P is Control-Q is to quit. And if you press the return button, then you're going to call a function called return button. And that's going to have some functionality later. All right. So now, now we want to put some static text. If you look at the handout, you'll see that there's a static text called planetary birthday paradox. And here's where we are going to put that text up on the screen. It's called a label in tk-enter. It's called a label, and where are you going to put that label? You're going to put it onto root. You're going to tell it what text you want to put in there, and then you can give it the font and the background color for that. You can also do the foreground color. You can change that if you want. Now the next line is very important. It says you're going to take the label that you just created, and you're going to place it in a certain spot. It's going to give you the x coordinate and the y coordinate. In tk-enter, the upper left-hand corner is 0, 0. So it's kind of intuitive as to where you want to place this. I happen to know that I worked this out before. The place is called a geometry manager, and there's 3 of them that are available to you in tk-enter. One is called pack. A lot of beginners use pack. And if you're just starting out, it's a very easy way. It does what you think it'll do. It'll take your item and it'll just put it up on the screen and it'll pack it all in. And you have a few capabilities with it, but my advice is don't use it, because sooner or later you're going to want to move some things around and it's just going to cause you all kinds of problems. Place is better. Have you ever used Pack?
Not yet, no.
Okay, so place is better because you can place it where you want to place it, so it's an absolute place. There's another one called Grid, and that one gives you even finer control. I think place is a good place to start, actually, for this. So does anybody have any questions about this? Because this is new.
Is it responsive?
Sorry?
Is it responsive, like if you open and close the screen, is it shrinking?
It won't shrink. Let me show you. So there's the birthday paradox. We've placed it where we wanted to place it. And it's not going to move around. And it won't shrink either. Okay, was that your question? Okay. Okay. Next thing is we have to design the combo box. Well, TK-Inter has that available for you. There is an item called a combo box, and that's in that TTK module, and that's themed. So that's what allows you to create a style. There's a default style called T-Combo Box. And we are going to overwrite some things, and we're going to say the background is white, the field color background is white, and the foreground color is black. Now, the next line is planet var. That's going to be our planet variable. That's what the user chooses. We're going to set it to a default of Earth. And so if you notice, it is an object of type string var, which is defined in the TK module. And so you might wonder, why don't they just use a string? Well, the string var is kind of clever. It allows you to do two-way communication. And in our case, what we do is when we define the drop-down box, we define the list, the values that are going to be in that drop-down box, and we're going to add on something called custom. Now, the text variable is the item that is actually being shown, and we're calling that, and we're going to use the planet var. So what this means is that it's when you change the item, if the user changes which planet they're going to be choosing, it'll change that variable, which is really not much it's not that much magic. However, you can do it in reverse. If you can programmatically then change planet var, and it'll change that right on the combo box. So it's doing all kinds of callback functions for you. We're going to place that at x40 and 40 and 50. Y is 50. And we're going to bind something called combo box selected. So when the user changes that combo box, service dropdown is going to be enacted. So let's see how this works. Whoops. There we go. So there's our combo box. And we can choose whatever we want. Now, custom is, if you recall, I said we were going to allow for the possibility that a new planet may join our solar system. one that we don't have any idea what it's, we don't know what it is, and so we will allow the user to enter in the number of days, Earth days, that it takes to move around the sun. And we could choose Mars, and okay. Now, just to show you what the string var does, what I've done here is I've said, so there is a, if you want to sleep, if you want to pause for a brief period of time, you might think you could use the time module sleep, but you don't want to do that because then you will be a blocking program, and you don't want to do that in these types of programs. So tk-enter allows you, it has something called after. So after 5,000 milliseconds, 5 seconds, I'm going to execute this program, this routine called planetvar.set value is equal to Zots. That will be our new planet. So I'm going to execute that. Now, 5, 4, look at Earth. And it just changed to Zots after 5 seconds. Okay? So you get that two-way communication with the string var. That may be a very bad example of why you would use it, but you might want to use it in case of a slider. If you had a slider control, you would slide it back and forth, and at the same time you'd be updating what was in an edit window. Or, conversely, you may change what's in the edit window, and it'll change the position of the slider. Okay. I'm going to get rid of this. But I think, do you kind of get the idea of what you need to do? You're always building on top of things. I don't think I will go through very much more of this. There are a few things that I wanted to show you. So the next one is the days entry. This is started out, we're going to create this. It's going to be a label, so it's going to say custom year length if selected. Custom days, we're going to place that at 40 and 90. There's something called, that I'm defining as VCMD. So we're going to allow the user to type in a real or floating point number. And we're going to do some validation, and what the VCMD stands for is a validation command. And the next line down, it says, we're going to create an entry. And it's going to go into the root. We can say validate equals key, and validate command equals, we give it a tuple, we give it the routine we want it to execute, and a parameter, an argument. And that argument is %p in this case. It's not very intuitive. What the %p means is I'm going to send to the validate function the string that already exists on the screen plus the key that you've entered. But I'm not going to update the entry field until you either return a true or a false. If you return a false, I won't enter it. So that's going to be our validation. And we're going to place it, and we're going to, if you see the state on that is disabled. Now, if we run this right now, you'll see we have the custom year. If I press custom, I don't know what will happen here. You see that it's been enabled. So now the user can type in a year. And I'm going to just type in some numbers here. And now I'm going to start typing in letters. And it is stopping me from doing that. And that's what that validate command is. Okay. So you have all kinds of functionality with this. The next thing we're going to do is the target probability. And that also is a real number that the user will type in. And I'm not going to go through all of that. That's just about the same thing. You're still going to validate that for correctness. And then we get to a button. And that's going to be a calculator button. You press the button, and it's going to go out and call this function, calculate, and give it all the arguments that it needs in order to do the calculation for that birthday problem. We're going to place it further down on the display, and we're just going to create a result label. The calculate command, the calculate routine will go through and update that result. So we should have a complete working program at this point. So in answer to our question, let's see what the calculate is. We had 144. Does anybody want to make any more predictions about this? How many people does it take before you will have a 50-50 chance that two people will have the same birthday?
1 in a million.
1 in a million? Okay, well,
No one went that high.
no one went that high. Okay. Anybody else?
I'll say 100.
You'll say 100. Oh, we got 100. We got 144. We have a million. We have. Anybody else? Okay.
Can I change my answer?
I'm sorry? Oh, you want to change your mind?
No.
Or do you like the mind you've got?
I love changing my mind all the time. I think it's important.
365 days.
Well, you know what? I've met like 6 people with my same birthday, so I don't think I'm right.
Okay.
I also
So,
think I'm really lucky.
Richard, what do you guess?
I'm going to guess 26.
27. Okay.
I'm so off.
So the answer is the year length is 365 days, 0.25. The approximate number of people needed is 23. The exact number of people needed is 23. The reason you get an approximation is because the way this calculation is done in 2 different ways. One is using logarithms, and the other way is an iterative process. So I'm just showing you both. Now, if you wanted a 90% chance, you could also press calculate, and it'll recalculate. And it says you only need to ask 42 people. This is why it's called the birthday paradox, because it's really counterintuitive to what people believe. 144 was a very good guess. 100 was a very good guess, but this is actually what it is. But you have to take it with a grain of salt. The thing is this, these are probabilities. And what it's saying is, if we went outside right now and we asked 23 people what their birthday was, there's a 50-50 chance you may get it right. But when you're talking about statistics, you're talking about the long term in doing this. You're talking about, play out this game 1,000 times and you'll start to approach a 50% result. And a very funny thing is, I did this with somebody. We were in a company and we had 45 employees, and I said 2 people have the same birthday, and the receptionist said no, they don't. And we pulled out the records because it was only 45 people, and we checked. Turns out they didn't. Nobody. We didn't get a collision. Now, just as a side note on this, the reason why this is, I think, an important computer science problem, and when I finally realized this, I sort of got cold shivers. When you visit a website and they ask you to create an account, you create a username and a password, right? Okay. And they say, sometimes they tell you, well, oh, this is a very secure password. What they don't tell you is something that they may not even know. What happens when you type in a password? They don't, if they're responsible, they won't put your password in clear text. They'll run it through a hashing algorithm, and they'll stick that into the database. Then when you come back to that website and you type in the password, they will hash that, and then they will compare the results of that hash with the hash that's in the database, and they'll say they'll let you in. What they don't tell you is that there are more than one password that will reduce down to that hash. And this is what made me have shivers, because every bank, every brokerage house, every financial institution, they all use the same sort of things. And it means that if you had enough time, you don't even have to guess their password. You just need to guess a password that matches their hash. Now, it's a long shot that it'll happen, but that's why I like this problem as much as it is, because it shows what really happens when you have a limited space. Just to show you some other functions about this, let's go back to custom. And let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's how many Earth days there are in one of their years. Well, you'd only need to ask 239 people on that particular planet. And in what was really less than an hour, we got a fully functioning GUI. Now, granted, it is not, it doesn't really do very much, but it just shows the power that you have within Python. And I mean, you get that all for one low price per month on the subscription basis. Okay. There is something I do want to show you. That's all I've got for TK Enter. Now, a lot of people don't like it. It's really good for beginners because it'll get your feet wet. What I'm showing you here is for so there is a package called Qt, and a company called Riverside Software in Great Britain created something called PyQt. Now, Qt is maintained and built by a company called the Qt Company. Through a series of acquisitions, they ended up at Nokia. Some of you will say Nokia. The US and Finland, where it's based, are called Nokia. Okay, so Nokia saw what they were doing, and they had a very restrictive license on it. It was more restrictive than Qt itself. So they went back and forth, and they tried to negotiate their way out of it, and finally they said, we give up. They're letting the Qt Company now create something new called Pi, what is it called? It's Pi, hang on a second. Who has the sheet? Can I borrow this for? Yeah, hold on a second. PySide. So they created something called PySide. So now you have these two competing things, and you have PySide and PyQt, and they're actually almost the same. And PySide is much less restrictive. So if you want to distribute your code, they say they don't care. You may be wondering, why is it called PySide? What is side? And I always thought it's just a side project. But really what it is it's a Finnish company. And side means binding. And what this does, these PyQt and PySide, what they are doing is they are they're wrapping the C code with Python code. Now this is called Qt Widget Designer. And this makes a world of difference in creating your GUIs, because you can use the drag and drop feature. So on the left-hand side, you have all the widgets. And you can just drag them in there and position them wherever you want to position them. On the right-hand side is the object map of how all these things are laid out. In the middle, you have the properties, and you can select all kinds of properties for that. So a nice feature about this is that when you install this, if you go to Form, you can preview this. And it does a fairly good job of previewing how it'll look. Then when you're finished, when you're satisfied with this, go to Form, View Python code. It will generate the Python code that's necessary. So remember with tkinter, what we did was we had a lot of setup that we had to do. This is going to do that for you. And this will enable you to write the code, to actually just save the code, and you're a step ahead of the game. So keep that in mind if you want to use a package. I like PyQt. I don't know very much about it. You're still going to need to get your hands dirty on it, though. It looks like I lost everything. There we go. So I've done the same thing with PyQt. We have to import a lot of things. But really, the actual code is so simple, it isn't even funny, because all you need to do is to set up the actions, the trigger actions for the menu, for the click button. And this will take you maybe 5 minutes. The biggest part in all of these things is setting up the way the GUI looks, because almost everything else is done for you. So let's see if I can, I don't remember what state I left this in. So this is using PyQt. Yeah, it's PyQt. And if I go over to help, yeah, this is the PyQt. So it's giving you all this stuff, and it really doesn't take you very much. I think it took me 5 or 10 minutes once I figured out what I needed to do in order to make this a functioning program. And I would say that I would choose this over tkinter. The only thing that tkinter has an advantage over is the fact that it comes with Python. This, you have to download Qt Side 6, version 6. And then you would have to send that on, if you want to distribute this program, you'd have to send this on to somebody else. But I think this is a lot easier to work with. So does anybody have any questions about this, any of this? Nothing. Okay.
Down there.
Oh, sorry.
You said you have to send it on to someone else.
I'm sorry.
You said if you want, I guess, to package it or whatever, you have to send it on to somewhere else?
You're going to have to download Pi Side 6, and you're going to have either they will have to download it if you want to send it on to somebody else, or you'll have to package it up in such a way that it gets transmitted to them.
But what do you mean when you say to send it off to somebody else? What would you be sending it off?
Well, you may want to distribute it. You may have a product.
Okay.
Let's say you came up with the world's greatest spreadsheet, and you were using this, right? Well, it doesn't do you any good to just send them off the code
Got it.
without that, because you'll get a lot of error messages. That's all.
Okay.
That's all I meant. Anybody else?
I mean, you wouldn't really do this though, right? You just do this in a web page.
Do what?
You wouldn't really write this as an app. You do this in a web page. It'd be,
You could, yeah.
then there's no, because who's going to download this?
Nobody.
It's a lot of work, right? Whereas going to a web page is.
It's a funny thing. I do a lot of investments, and I saw this YouTube video, and the guy said, I'm going to show you this system, and I'm going to just give everybody I'm going to give you everything that I do. And he says, and to make it easy, I've already written an application. It happened to be a Python application, and he did it. And it was similar to this. So, I mean, he could have made a web page.
You can embed Python in a web page with PyDAC.
Yeah, you could do all that stuff.
So it's not even a language issue anymore.
Right. But and this was a contrived example. You may not want to do this. You may want to, as he said, you may want to use a web page. I just didn't want to get too complicated with everything. Wow, we got a lot of people here, more than we started with. It's too bad. You missed a great presentation in the beginning. Okay, anybody else have any questions? Anybody have any answers?
Not a million.
Not a million. It's not a million. Oh, sorry.
No.
Yeah.
I love learning. Thank you.
Okay. I'm not saying that anybody is going to go out and do this, but it doesn't take as much work as it did in the beginning when you had to write all that C code. But on the other hand, the C code has a lot of advantages because you get a feel for what the system is doing for you, and you can go deeper into it than these, because these are doing a lot of things for you that behind the scenes. Okay? That's all I've got right now. Do you have a question? Is there anything that people want to hear next time? Adam will be back from Germany, and I'm sure you'll get a good presentation at that point. I'll just, we'll probably get him to do something. Do appreciate everybody coming. We have actually more people here today than actually responded to our meetup. And it may not even be the same people. Now that's a statistical problem there.
To build an app.
To build an app, yeah. Did anybody learn anything here today?
Definitely.
Okay. You probably learned you don't want to have to give a presentation on this. Well, QT does, and also our TK Inter, and Pi, they all do. The trouble is that you're the only person I know who's ever used it, because I don't think anybody's doing this anymore. He was saying that.
Photoshop did it back.
Did it?
Yeah, that was one of the first apps on the Mac.
I'm wondering if, because a lot of applications use context menus, whether that has changed things.
Actually, Mac Paint might have had it, right? Like where you go up and there's this one little graphic menu and you can tear it off and drop it.
Oh, maybe.
Mac Paint? No, probably not.
I think it's actually extra code inside their application that's probably should be twilighted at this point.
What was that code to?
Right.
You did a whole code to something? All that writing.
Just learning.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming. And I really do appreciate that everybody did come here. Thank you. Come back. Next week, next month, we'll have a good one.
Same Python channel.
Oh, I did want to show you guys one other thing I forgot to tell you. Just to show you that time marches on. When you wanted to do a C, in the very beginning, when I showed you the C program, the way I did it was I bought this book. It was called Windows. I had to replace it. The book I got was Windows 3.1, and by Charles Petzod. I don't think they publish it anymore. I think it's out of print. And he does an excellent job of teaching you how to do almost everything you want to do in Windows, including DDE. Okay, anybody here ever used DDE? Dynamic Data Exchange. One of the promises of the GUI was that you would be able to run several programs at once and have them communicate with each other. Microsoft created something called DDE. And it allowed you, if you changed something in Excel, it would change it also in your Word document. As long as they were, it was sort of a subscriber-publisher thing. Okay, then the other book I got was this book. It was the reference book, and it includes everything, everything, the messages that could be sent to you, the parameters, the functions, everything. And this was for Windows 3.
Wow.
If they published it today under Windows 11, I'm going to say that they probably would have 10 volumes. Because even when we got to Windows 95, I think we went to 2 volumes. Time marches on. Life is unpredictable. That's why you should always eat dessert first.
Some real collector's items you got there.
Oh, wait a minute. I had too much to carry. I actually have a version of Windows version 1.
Wow.
I think it's worth maybe $1.98 or something. People who don't like Microsoft would say it's worthless. I tried to load it up on my system one time, and the floppy drive it found a bad spot on the disk. Okay. Thanks for coming, guys.
All right. Thanks for presenting.
I know.